The Flow Sports Radio.
Yeah. Hip Hop Sports Radio. And you're listening to The Flow Sports Radio Show. NBA season is running at full tilt right now, but we know it's a long season, man. NBA ain't like the NFL, where it's like every week is detrimental. It's a long grind in the NBA, man. And so we're going to talk about some of the things that's been happening off the court, more than we will be talking about things that are on the court. Most teams that are at the top, Warriors, Clippers, surprisingly the Atlanta Hawks, and the Cleveland Cavaliers have only lost 2 games out of 11 so far. So sitting down, talking X's and O's, statistics and all that kind of stuff, man, it's a boring show to do that, because you can just go online and find all that information out. There's nothing to analyze, really, you know. But what we're going to talk about today, right quick, fast and hurry, is about the situation between LeBron James and New York Knicks GM Phil Jackson in regards to these posse comments that he referred to LeBron's team, characterizing them as that, and if there's a problem with that or not. Just for those who don't know, there was background. Phil Jackson was, doing an interview, and he was asking questions, and he started talking about LeBron and his circle, which he labeled as a posse, and basically said some things in regards to LeBron and his team asking for special treatment and all of this kind of stuff when he was with the Miami Heat, and LeBron and his team took offense to that. And a lot of people are like, well, what's the big deal? Well, why is being called a posse, what's the big deal? That's hip hop, you know what I'm saying? That's a badge of honor, you know what I'm saying? Why is LeBron's just being sensitive and all this, that, and the third? Let me go ahead and break this down in a very short and sweet situation. First of all, for those of you guys who are out there saying he shouldn't be offended, let's make something abundantly clear here. Nobody has the right to tell another person what they deem to be offensive or not. That is an individual's choice. You can't tell another person, well, you know what, man, that person called your mama a fat pig. You shouldn't be offended because she's fat. Because that's insensitive. Anybody has a way to feel some kind of way about what they want to feel about anything. I've been accused many times in my life to be oversensitive. Shaq, you take things too far. You get offended easily. That's my right. You don't know my upbringing. You don't know how I was raised. You don't know what my mother and my father told me. You don't know that, it's in my nature to fight back. You don't know that. So when I come at you 10 times harder than you come back at me, you don't seem to understand that. You know why? Because you're offended. See, but I don't waste my time telling you you're wrong for being offended. So what I'm telling you in this situation is that LeBron James and his camp, which includes Maverick Carter, who is one of the top people in the industry in regards to sports management and marketing and whatnot, a mogul in his own right. You know what I'm saying? Randy Mims, who is LeBron's agent, and some of the other people around him, they're not posse members. Okay? And for those who think, well, what's the problem with that? Phil Jackson, he created the narrative back in his 2004 book talking about LeBron James, and he classified people in LeBron's posse as people who fetch cars and run down women for him. None of these guys, all these guys are multimillionaires. All of them are running successful businesses. You know what I'm saying? I know for a fact that Maverick Carter has an office right down the road over here at Warner Brothers Studios. They don't give a posse member their own office on the Warner Brothers lot. Understand that. Now, in regards to whether or not Phil Jackson's a racist or not, he's not a racist, man. Let's not get it too twisted.
Crazy Productions, baby.
But that was a very stereotypical situation. That was a very stereotypical answer. Now, what's the difference between racism and stereotypes? Okay? The difference between a racism is somebody who's blatantly trying to say something that is demeaning your race on purpose. Okay? That is somebody who's purposefully saying something to another person's race and in a derogatory fashion because they mean it. Stereotype is an ideology about a person based on their race. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh man, guy's wearing a hoodie. He might be a bad guy. Because what happened to Trayvon. People wear hoodies. There's a problem with that. You know what I'm saying? I had that conversation with Nate Parker, from the Nat Turner movie when I met him a couple of weeks ago. But that's a whole nother talk show. But at the end of the day, it's our responsibility to police any and every instance that's going to describe us in the future. Why do we have to sit back and just say, oh, it's LeBron? I think LeBron is, cutting things off at the pass. You know what I'm saying? It becomes American lexicon if we don't police things. See, people don't even remember the race card. How many times when we protect ourselves as a race, or any person protects themselves as a race that is not a Caucasian, we're viewed as playing the race card. You know where that came from? That came from the O.J. Simpson murder trial, okay, which was less than 25 years ago. Now it's common. It's a common, ideology and common wordage to describe somebody who's using their race as an excuse. Who's to say posse won't be used as an excuse later on if it's used incorrectly? Who's to say that the term thug, which is now being used as a new N-word? Okay, so we got to be very careful what we allow. Okay, I'm not one to allow a lot. A lot of people who I know aren't one to allow a lot. But when we let things slide and we constantly let things slide, then later on we want to stop it. You can't stop the avalanche, man. Once the avalanche starts rolling down, you can't stop it. The key is to stop it before it germinates. So in retrospect, in regards to the situation, I think LeBron and his team are supposed to say something because they're the ones that are being talked about. Are you being talked about when someone's mentioning a posse? No. Phil Jackson said his name. Okay? His name was said. So all bets are off, man. I don't got a problem with it, man. I think it's straight. I think LeBron said what he needed to say. I think Phil is going to say what he needs to say. And that's it. That's all. I don't think they particularly like each other anyway. But at the end of the day, don't say something I don't like about me and just sit back and say, oh, well, since Joe and Harry and Larry and all of them say I shouldn't be offended, don't be. Ain't gonna happen. Anybody has a right to be offended by anything. Okay. Last thing in regards to LeBron sitting out these games that some people are complaining about, I can understand why you're complaining about that, man. Saying you want to see the best player in the world. You done spent money to go see the best player in the world, and he doesn't play. It's 11 games into the season. But at the end of the day, man, LeBron knows this. That's why I'm not even talking about the season right now, man. It's long, and the man deserves to sit down when he chooses to sit down. See, a lot of you guys don't call your own shots. So when you see somebody else call their own shots, you have a problem with that because you're used to being in check. LeBron ain't in check, man. He's going to sit out games. He's going to relax his body and be ready for the playoffs. That's when he's going to start playing. So, hey, man, I understand it. But players sit out all the time. Greg Popovich and those guys over at San Antonio have sat his players. It's not a popular decision, but at the end of the day, man, the results deem worthy of anything else. And that's it, man. Glow Sports Radio Show. Doing what we do all the time.